Welcome to my channel and thank you for choosing to watch this video. Dear viewer, at the beginning let's briefly recall what we talked about in the previous episode.
In the previous episode, in part 1, we explained the true meaning of imagination, but also why it is so important for us to constantly work on its development. And here, first of all, we focused on how children use their imagination and the information provided to them to build the foundations of their architectural plan of life. While already in the teenage years, we said that they begin to experiment with all this acquired knowledge, trying to expand their project. In the second part, however, we discussed the types of relationships we build, as well as their impact and significance during childhood and teenage years.
And there was only one conclusion. To function properly in the material world, we need both imagination and other people, because without them, we wouldn't be able to build our architectural plan of life. So, in other words, to experience life. But in order for our plan to make any sense, we will now have to give meaning to our experiences. Because when we give them meaning, then we will automatically discover the meaning of our existence. And that's what actually we are going to focus on in today's episode.
So the plan for today's recording is as follows. In the first part of this video, we are going to focus on adulthood. And here, among other things, you will learn how to now already consciously use your imagination so that you can give physical form to your greatest plans and dreams. In the same part, you will also learn what role other people play in our life, what types of relationships do we build at this stage, and what is their significance for our development. Whereas in the second part of this video, we will discuss old age. And here you will find out what is actually the true meaning of this stage of life. What other meaning does the relationship with another person have, as well as what you need to do to finally close your project and give meaning to it. And finally, we will summarize all the information and of course, draw the most valuable conclusions so that you can later implement them in your life.
Okay, so let's move on to the first part of this recording.
When in childhood we were just learning how to function in this world, we didn't yet pay attention to the meaning of our experiences. Whereas during our teenage years, we were too focused on trying and experimenting with all sorts of new sensations to know what our life actually meant to us. And this is only because, as we said in the previous episode, both childhood and teenage years are periods of gathering information and collecting experiences.
So what's adulthood then, and what's its significance for our development? Maybe let's start with the fact that the moment of reaching adulthood in most countries is determined by the moment of reaching the age of 18. If, on the other hand, we talk about achieving emotional maturity, in this case, it's a rather unindividual matter. And that's certainly why we cannot determine any particular age. For it's true that some may achieve it sooner, others later, and still others, unfortunately, never, since it's mostly dependent on the level of self-awareness.
Nevertheless, given the fact that you are watching this video, I assume that you are a self-aware person.
The adulthood period is such a breakthrough moment in our development. because thanks to all the previously collected information, at this stage we can finally clearly define who we are or what we are. We can also determine what exactly serves our self-development and what, for example, stands in our way. Also, looking back now, we can clearly see what we have learned from our past experiences. And this means that now, using all previously acquired knowledge, we can build our life anew. Except that now, fully consciously.
Therefore, at this stage, as you can certainly imagine, the use of imagination is completely different. If only because the accumulated knowledge makes us much more decisive in our actions. In addition, years of practice have made it easy for us to find ourselves in various life situations. Therefore, most of our reactions at this stage have become automatic, and this in turn allows us to undertake much more tasks at the same time.
And although it's true that we learn something new at every stage, however, in adulthood, we know ourselves much better.
And thanks to this, we can now cope with any difficulties on our own, regardless of whether we are faced with completely new or familiar experience. Also, knowing ourselves, we know our own abilities, and so we know what we can expect from ourselves. Therefore, at this stage, we finally close this period of deceptive imagining ourselves and our lives, and we open a new one in which we set ourselves only concrete goals.
So, to briefly summarize what I just said,
in the past, we were building the foundations of our architectural plan. Then, we were collecting the necessary information needed to draw the final outline of our project. However, now, we already have a ready plan which we are starting to implement step by step, and so on until we completed it. And this means that now our imagination will serve us as a tool to manifest the physical form of what we have designed for ourselves. So, my dear viewer, if you already know what gives you joy, if you know what serves your development, if you know exactly what you want out of life, using all the acquired knowledge, choose for yourself the path that will help you ultimately achieve all of this. Because knowing yourself and your own abilities, you should know that everything is possible for you to achieve. Therefore, use your imagination to visualize everything you would like to manifest and continue to believe that it already exists within your field. And before you know it, it will be yours. And to convince you even more to the powerful work of our imagination, let me give you a simple example from everyday life. Okay, so let's say you're the one cooking dinner at home. Every day, before dinner appears on your table, you are certainly wondering what you would like to eat and cook today. And that's how you imagine the image of your desired food. Then you make a shopping list. You go to the store, you buy the products you need, you come back home and simply start preparing your dinner.
So, as you can see, actually the whole process starts with imagining what would you like to cook in this case. And in order for you to finally manifest its physical form, you also have to believe that you can create it, right? And since you believed in the realization of your imagination, then of course you took the necessary steps to realize your plan. and that's how your dinner appeared.
So now imagine that actually everything you have ever dreamed of, you can manifest into your reality in literally the same way. Because that's how the magic of imagination works. And your faith in the realization of the images you create in your mind will actually help you give them physical form. So, play with your mind. When in childhood we were just getting to know the world around us, this relationship with another person served us mainly to help us learn and adapt to our new reality. So we can say that back then our relationship with others didn't yet have any greater meaning for us. While in a teenage years, this contact with others took on a much greater dimension, because here we have not only learned how to function in society, but also learned to build various types of relationships that often turned into deep bonds.
And so at this stage, also through another person, we had a chance to experience various new sensations and feelings. And what does that mean? We had the opportunity to understand the tremendous importance for our development that the presence of other people in our life actually has.
Because through another person, we could also become convinced of the existence of the dual nature of all creation. And thanks to this, today, we can distinguish good from evil.
And so now, much more experienced, we enter adulthood, which is the stage when we use all the experiences gained in the past to build our lives anew, literally, except that now we are doing it more consciously.
Because now we have a reliable source of knowledge, which is our past experiences. But we also have the possibility to collect new information from the present. What's more, thanks to our imagination, we can imagine the possible consequences of our actions. And that means we are more cautious now.
So basically, we don't make as many mistakes as we did perhaps in the past.
We can also say that at this stage, we are becoming more picky and selective. However, the fact that we know exactly what serves our development allows us to be more decisive in making our decisions. And that's how we exactly choose the people we want to surround ourselves with.
So at this stage, basically, our cycle of friends narrows because our needs and values have changed, if only because now we mainly focus on achieving our goals and also dreams. That's why we carefully select our friends so that they can support our development, but also so that we can still experience some new challenges and sensations together. After all, this is not the end of our life, but in a way, our second beginning.
Therefore, rest assured that we will continue to meet people who are our mirror images, because thanks to them, this time we will be able to see, for example, progress in our development.
But also we will still learn something new about ourselves and the world around us.
Except that now, all these people we meet on our path will no longer be our obstacle, but our support. However, not only that, because they will also be our reminder of where we are going with our project.
If on the other hand, we are talking about building our family, our own family, given our previous experiences, we select our potential partner in terms of matching in different areas of life. So the external appearance is only, say, a nice addition to it.
Of course, we want our partner to be well-groomed and well-presented on the outside. However, now his or her personality, behavior, and the way they treat us plays a much greater role.
That's why I personally believe that decisions like marriage, partnership, or motherhood should be made at the age of reaching or achieving emotional maturity, when we are convinced of how we want to expand our architectural plan of life, so that we want to devote ourselves to it with love, passion, and dedication.
Dear viewer, I believe that such decisions should be fully thought and concrete. Because thanks to this, perhaps we will manage not to make some huge life mistakes that could perhaps have a negative impact on both us and other people.
At this stage, some of us also decide on more platonic relationships. Platonic means more spiritual than carnal. After all, it isn't said anywhere that everyone should feel the need to start their own family. I believe that this is a rather individual matter, and above all, depends on the needs related to the self-development of a given person. So to briefly summarize,
the role of another person in our lives is undeniably important regardless of the stage of our development. For it's only through another person that we are able to know or to find out who or what we are, where we are going, how great is our potential, and what we want our life to look like in the future.
But not only that, because through another person we can also determine the progress of our development. Also understand, we said, the dual nature of all things, or even experience new sensations that will help us expand our life project. At this stage, we have an even greater source of knowledge than ever before. And so now we can use all the information we have been collecting our entire life to finally close our project and, of course, give it meaning. But in order to be able to do this, we will first have to connect all the stages of our development and make a summary based on them.
So basically, we need to draw conclusions and ask ourselves what we have learned from each of the individual stages, what we have achieved thanks to our self-awareness, how much our views and beliefs have changed and transformed over the years, and perhaps who we have become thanks to all our accumulated knowledge.
Knowledge that we can now also pass on to younger generations in the form of some golden advice, perhaps. Because sharing knowledge with others also helps us to see and assess the level of our self-development.
However, considering the fact that this is the stage when we close the current life cycle, of course we automatically begin to think about the future and try to open a new one. And so with the help of our imagination, we try to imagine what will happen to us after our physical death and what our future life will perhaps look like.
If on the other hand we talk about the role that other people play in our life, at this stage we focus more on nurturing the bonds we have already built rather than building new ones.
Nevertheless, it isn't said anywhere that we cannot make new contacts. Dear viewer, as long as our health allows us to, we should do whatever makes us happy. Dear viewer, as we know, everything has its beginning and its end. Therefore, when something ends, something new will begin. And if something new has begun, it will also have to end somewhere. And so on indefinitely, because that's the law of nature. And the cycle of human life also has a beginning and an end. But this doesn't mean our end, because we, like everything else in the universe, are infinite. Therefore, after the end of one cycle, we will simply start the next one, which will be a continuation of our self-development.
A cycle that will again require us to build our architectural plan. Because as we now know, without it, it would be difficult for us to determine the progress we have made, but also determine the meaning of our experiences.
And that means that we wouldn't be able to determine who we are and what is the true purpose of our existence.
But why is it so important?
Because that's how we were designed. As human, we are composed of 3 dimensions: height, width, and depth, where the dimension of depth is supposed to mean our deep meaning.
A meaning that we must find, because when we find it, we will discover our own truth.
Therefore, the experience of life given to us, in fact, is the possibility of experiencing ourselves in a physical form, experiencing ourselves in a world where, with the help of our imagination and faith, we can materialize our needs and desires.
Nevertheless, at the beginning of our experience, when we are still completely unconscious of our truth, it turns out that our reality is not as beautiful as we would like it to be.
Because instead, we experience difficulties, challenges, pains, and suffering. But why?
Simply because we don't know ourselves yet. And if we don't know ourselves, we also don't know our own potential. So, experiencing ourselves through all sorts of challenges actually is not punishment, but an opportunity to see our potential. Potential which, believe me, is unlimited.
And only those who achieve self-awareness will know this. Therefore, by becoming aware of yourself, you automatically realize that you are not an individual, but an inseparable part of everything. And this means that by achieving self-awareness, you will not only help yourself, but above all, you will contribute to the expansion of the consciousness of all creation. And that's why your task is to support this development by constantly becoming a better version of yourself. So, dear viewer, just as the cycle of life has a beginning and an end, every started project will eventually have to come to an end. And our life, after all, is nothing but our own project. And you will understand it when you finally manage to connect all the dots together into one coherent whole. Because only in this way will you know the meaning of yourself and your own existence. Dear viewer, in the upcoming episode, we will discuss the list of the most important things that we should learn from an early age, so that it supports our process of self-discovery and self-development. Therefore, I cordially invite you to watch the next episode.
Meanwhile, I squeeze you tightly. Take care.